For thousands of years, the sprawling valleys of Yellowstone were a masterpiece of natural balance. At the very top of this complex and delicate web of life stood a relentless apex predator. The gray wolf was the true architect of the wilderness, keeping the vast grazing herds of elk in constant motion. But viewed from the ground, the impact of their heavy paws dictated the survival of the entire ecosystem. In the early 20th century, an expanding human presence declared war on the ancient predators. Driven by a desire to tame the landscape and protect livestock, a systematic campaign of eradication began. By the 1920s, the haunting chorus of the pack was silenced completely within the park borders. Without its top predator, the park fell into a strange, unnatural quiet, waiting for the consequences. Suddenly, the ecological clock began to spin wildly out of control. Released from the constant pressure of being hunted, the elk populations exploded to unprecedented numbers. They no longer needed to keep moving to survive, so they settled deep into the vulnerable river valleys. Driven by endless hunger, the massive herds began to consume everything within their reach. The delicate young saplings of willow and aspen trees were eaten down to the bare earth before they could ever grow. Across the vast park, the landscape began to wither, transforming into a barren, overgrazed wasteland. As the trees vanished, the intricate layers of the forest canopy ceased to exist. Without the shelter of the dense brush, the vibrant songbirds abandoned the valleys entirely. The ripple of devastation reached down to the smallest creatures, wiping out vital insect populations. But the most catastrophic chain reaction occurred along the edges of the waterways. Beavers, the great engineers of the forest, rely entirely on the willow trees for their food and their dams. With the willows eaten by the elk, the beavers starved, and their intricate dams fell into ruin. Without the dams to slow the water, the rivers transformed into violent, shallow torrents. The cool, deep pools vanished, and with them went the fish, amphibians, and the otters. With the riverbanks stripped of vegetation, the very soil of Yellowstone began to collapse. Even the scavengers starved, as the massive herds died mostly of old age or brutal winter freezes. For 70 years, the ecosystem suffered under the weight of an invisible sickness. The balance was shattered, and the park was slowly dying from the inside out. But in 1995, humans made a radical and controversial decision to play God one more time. A small group of Canadian gray wolves was brought into the park to correct the historical mistake. Inside the steel cages rested the cure for an entire landscape. The gates swung wide, and the apex predator stepped back onto its ancestral throne. A long-forgotten sound echoed through the valleys, signaling a new era for the wilderness. The elk heard the ancient call, and an instinct dormant for generations instantly awoke. The wolves immediately began to hunt, killing some of the elk, but their greatest impact was psychological. They created an ecology of fear, fundamentally changing how and where the massive herds moved. The elk actively avoided the deep gorges and valleys where they could easily be trapped. And as soon as the grazing pressure vanished, the valleys experienced a miraculous rebirth. Within just a few years, the height of the willow and aspen trees quintupled. The barren earth was quickly covered in a thick, lush carpet of life-giving vegetation. As the thick forest canopy returned, the skies above the valleys were once again filled with music. The new trees produced abundant berries and bugs, drawing massive grizzly bears back to the riverbanks. The bears reinforced the impact of the wolves, hunting the elk calves and keeping the herds on the move. But the most magical transformation was sparked by the return of the forgotten engineers. With plenty of willow trees to harvest, the beavers returned to build their mighty dams. These dams created deep, cold pools, providing perfect habitats for otters, muskrats, and ducks. The pools cooled the overall temperature of the water, allowing the native trout to thrive once again. The remains of the wolves' kills provided a vital year-round food source for the scavengers. The raven, the eagle, and the coyote were pulled back from the brink of starvation. But the most astonishing discovery was yet to be realized by the scientists watching from above. The new forests locked the loose soil in place, entirely stopping the rampant erosion of banks. The rivers stopped meandering wildly, the channels narrowed, deepened, and stabilized. By hunting the elk, a small pack of wolves had physically altered the geography of the earth. They changed the very shape of the rivers, proving that in nature, absolutely everything is connected. The Yellowstone miracle is the ultimate testament to the profound power of the apex predator. It is a reminder that the wild cannot be managed, it must simply be allowed to exist. The architects of the forest have returned to their ancient work, and the earth is whole again.